Hi, Mob. Another episode of the journey to Black Belt with Chantal Thompson. I acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and I pay my respects to their elders, both past, present, and emerging, and thank them for their continuing custodianship of country, culture, community, and our babies, our children. And I acknowledge and pay respects to all traditional custodians and countries across the lands we now call Australia. This opening creates an intention. It creates ceremony. It is sharing respect and following through on traditions and processes that have been practiced across this nation, this continent, for more than 80,000 years. And I just wanted to share my reflections on how I went last week with the intentions versus goals. I can definitely say that I severely underestimated how much energy and focus it would take to deliver a 4-day gathering for young Aboriginal women from the ages of 11 to 20, and not just being solely responsible for their experience. Well, not solely responsible, but being the leader and the curator of the experience for these young women, but also our staff, our mentors, and just the leader of the whole experience. And I guess my name being responsible for the gathering and everything that came with it. And I can honestly say it was one of the most challenging, eye-opening, deepening, and heartfelt experiences I've had in the space of Kiilalaana and bringing it to what it is. And with how that met with the intentions that I had in terms of my Jiu Jitsu, my business, and my life in Kiilalaana, it definitely intersected in a way that I hadn't planned for or intended, in that my intention for the week prior to, or in the week leading up to the Kiilalaana gathering, was to be able to train jiu-jitsu at least twice and do 2 movement sessions, and then be able to do some admin towards the business, and then with the rest of what was available to focus on the Kiilalaana gathering. As I said, I severely underestimated the focus that it would take to bring this space together. And I'm grateful for the learnings that I had in those moments, because it's definitely created a space for reflection on what does it take to be the person curating and holding that space? What does it take to bring together a collective of people so it becomes a more shared experience? And in the end, I only had 5 minutes every day to do some movement, which is more just stretching and rotating the joints to flush some movement through my body and to ground myself. I had a few moments each day to go and plant my feet on Lachi Lachi country and in the water, to kind of allow myself to be grounded and settled and set the intention for the day. And I can honestly say that working with intentions versus goals was far more soothing to my nervous system and to my soul, because I was able to work with the moment for what it was. And I was also able to meet the moment for what it was, while still being intentional with how I was showing up and the energy that I was bringing and the direction I was taking each moment in. And that's kind of brought me to this idea that I've also wanting to acknowledge that I made some mistakes. I let people down in how I prepared for this gathering, in that I could have been more organized in terms of things like bringing the facilitators and the staff together to meet, so that each person knew the other around who was presenting what, the personalities that we were bringing in. So there was a connection between the women who were holding the space for our girls. being more organized with the agenda and how I got the information out, and also how I delegated tasks and how I managed my role as being the person. So, as an example, on the opening day of the gathering, I made the decision that I would be the one to pick up some young people who were traveling from Melbourne and other areas to our gathering, because I was the person they had that connection point with. But by choosing to do that, it meant that I wasn't available or present for the opening ceremony of the gathering, which I hadn't really shared what the agenda was. I'd shared the outline scope of it with my staff and the people who were going to be there. So it really impacted the feelings and the energies of the people who were holding the space for the opening. And if I had my time over again, I would definitely change that and delegate the task of picking up these young people to someone else and be there for the opening of our gathering. And the idea is that I want to share accountability, is that I saw this quote from an Instagram account called The Law of Ambition. And the quote or the tile goes, "I was toxic to some, I was a blessing to others, others I healed, many I hurt. Point is, I'm willing to admit I wasn't always right." And that we're not perfect, and that accountability is what makes us better. And for me, understanding the accountability and sitting with the different awarenesses, the different opportunities to reflect on this and hear different people's experiences of the gathering, of my leadership, and of that space, and what we can do and what I can do to grow and become better for the next one. And how that's kind of setting me up with my intentions for this next week of this journey, after sitting with these reflections. I didn't account for, so after the gathering, I had planned that, and I had booked in that I would have another whole week of events. I hadn't factored in that I would need rest and time to debrief, to reflect and bring together our people in the days post the gathering. So in the end, I ended up cancelling majority of the commitments for the week, and instead chose to show up to the ones that were essential and then give myself some space. And my body really reinforced the need to do that, because I started to come down with a head cold, a chesty thing, and my body was just really tired, and I really felt the need for a lot of sleep. And just my emotional energy was really overwhelmed. It was really sad, and people were commenting that I was more focusing on the negatives or the challenges of the experience. Whereas for me, it was by actually allowing myself space to feel those emotions and to acknowledge that that's where my mind and my spirit, my heart were kind of at. It's now allowed me to move through to this space of acceptance and accountability, but also now I'm able to start reflecting on, I've been looking at the photos from the event. I've been looking at listening to the feedback from our girls that were in attendance, and really open my heart and my spirit and my mind to the whole expansive experience. And the fact that intentions had served me better in that space, where I was able to weave together movement for health and grounding. I was able to attend to my business, but I was also able to serve Kiilalaana and learn a lot from that space around the type of leader that I am, the role that I want to play in the Kiilalaana Foundation, and how I actually want to show up and serve our girls and Kiilalaana in that space. And it's definitely not as the CEO. It's definitely not as the managing director, because it's not my strength. It's just not the space that I feel like I can serve best. Whereas where I feel I can serve Kiilalaana, and starting to know that I can serve Kiilalaana best, is by being our ambassador, by being Anishan, in that by being able to bring the resources in to make Kiilalaana possible, by sharing the vision and the story of Kiilalaana with other communities, other people who may be impacted by that or have the potential to come on board and be a supporter of Kiilalaana. And then when I'm in the space with the girls, being Anishan, holding space, but not necessarily directly facilitating or delivering the program. And then starting to curate and bring together a collective of individuals who want to see Kiilalaana thrive, but can see the vision and start to weave together their skills and expertise and knowledge and capacity to help us bring this and strengthen this vision and bring it more to life as we take the next steps. Excuse me. And where I'm taking that with my intentions for this week is that accountability is a gift. It's not something that I have to run from. And this is really helping me own up to the choice that I've made to not attend the Abu Dhabi Jiu Jitsu World Pro Championships in November in Abu Dhabi with my family, because I don't have the time to train and commit to getting better in preparation for that event. I don't have the time or the resources yet to attract the sponsorship that we would need to be able to attend that event. And for me, that's having accountability for the roles and the responsibilities that I have in this moment, whilst also still making space for the disappointment that I really wanted to go to this competition. So instead, what I'm doing is looking at, I have 12 months between now and the IBJJF Las Vegas World Masters, and just over 14 months to the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu World Pro, which will be in November next year. And I've got time to be intentional, to plan out the training and just be able to map what I would need to do and what would need to be in place for me to not only be able to attend those competitions, but to be able to train in the time that I have available, so that when those moments come, I feel prepared and excited and I'm ready to step on those mats and just give it everything I have with what I have and who I am in that moment. So the lesson for this week was definitely intentions work for me versus goals, and that accountability can be a gift because it allows me to sit with the truth of things, of other people's experiences, of my own experience, and of the reality of how those moments unfolded, and then what that can mean moving forward in terms of being feedback and guidance for our next steps, in terms of what we're doing as a foundation, what I'm doing as a leader and as a CEO, and how I'm showing up in those spaces so that they do continue to weave together. So I'm sitting here right now, I haven't been able to train. I did a workout on Tuesday morning, was feeling really crappy. So I've just decided to stretch and rest a lot more this week and see how that kind of lands with myself in creating space for next week to be able to get back into my training. I hope you've taken something from this journey to Black Belt Insights, and I thank you for your time. I thank you for your ears, and I thank you for your energy. And if there's any feedback or anything that stood out for you, I'd really love it if you could take the time to share that with me, or share this with someone that you believe would benefit from listening to this. Big love you, mob.